After our video on the new pneumonia in China, I honestly couldn't sleep well last night because I feel like something strange is taking place in China because the CCP's lack of transparency is very alarming. Welcome to China Insider. Happy Thanksgiving to my fellow American viewers, and for many around the world, happy regular Thursday. It's the holiday season though, so naturally everyone is in a cheerful mood, but I hated to bring it to you with bad news, but I have to talk about this. Now, the same thing from 2019 to 2020 may be repeating itself, where the CCP doesn't talk about what is taking place in China, what it's planning, what if it's starting something in the dark again. Children in China right now are going through a mysterious pneumonia. No one knows how it originated. It has somehow spread through countries like Vietnam and Korea, according to some of the information I've been receiving. ProMed, a global disease monitoring group, released an alarm on Tuesday. They called it walking pneumonia. Now, by definition, it's not a severe case of pneumonia. However, there are some concerns. One of them is that there's no vaccination against it. 2, it's highly antibiotic resistant. And 3, the ability to spread is quite high. Likely, it started with kids in schools catching it and spreading it among their classmates, which then it gets carried back to their house, and that's when, like wildfire, spread across China, and hospitals started getting swarms of children sick with pneumonia-like symptoms. Some schools are suspended, while others are weighing the options. Images like this, though, drawing many online to express their anger. Kids are still doing their homework while sick. This started throughout the year, but it climbed since this October. So within a month's time, we're seeing a situation where hospitals in China are completely flooded. And Chinese Communist Party is covering this up, using all sorts of excuses like it's seasonal flu, it's walking pneumonia. But the core issue is that the CCP doesn't want to take responsibility. They've decided to even censor the topics around flooded hospitals with patients on Chinese social media. In no world is a 24-hour wait for a doctor's appointment normal, or 3,000 appointments in the same department normal, or is 13,000 patients in a day in one children's hospital normal, or is multiple major cities in China facing the same problem with kids normal. So, are we to believe that this is all because of an unidentified pneumonia? This comes as the CCP refuses to recognize that COVID is still rampant in China. And trust me, it behaves so differently inside China compared to other countries. But because the CCP, for political reasons, won't admit that COVID is infecting people, they've essentially left the elephant in the room, saying that, oh, we're going to look somewhere else for our answer. And they render the entire medical process opaque because of that. The CCP has eliminated all COVID cases reporting since they lifted the lockdown in December last year. And doctors aren't allowed to tell their patients it's COVID as the main disease, right? But the reason is they fear retaliation, getting fired, questioned by the government. So many people cannot simply get the correct diagnosis from their doctors. So under that context, many in China experience strange symptoms like reinfection, co-infection, cross-infection, double infection, triple infection, and long COVID, and so on. Right now, there are so many different diseases. There's seasonal flu, RSV, mycoplasmic pneumonia, syncytial virus, and COVID. So when a patient goes to the hospital, they have no idea what they're up against. And while there, they're basically mixed in with thousands of others who are also in the dark. Some doctors in China even suggest that they just stay home. Better to not mingle with the thousands of people in such a small space. Now, we have no idea if this particular case with the children is actually COVID or seasonal flu, or it's what they're calling the walking pneumonia. But if the WHO is making an official request for China to provide more data on the unknown pneumonia outbreak, then we know it's pretty freaking serious. Sounds familiar, right? Think back to Wuhan. Now, I hope that after listening to me today, that if you know anybody in China or relatives who are wanting to travel to China or whoever else that you think this could benefit them, they deserve to know this information. So please share it with them. Now, the most that we can do right now is to alert our Congress representatives, local officials, call their offices, tell them about this, right? Tell them to be alert about this because we simply cannot risk another global pandemic. No surprise the communist regime has not been transparent. Now, I think it would be against my conscience to not talk about this again because technically I'm repeating myself, but because I know it's so severe, the stories of people in China who in 2020 back then, they were able to get out of China in time because they were watching the news of the outbreak, not from within China, but from outside sources. And then they fled China before the lockdowns hit. So There isn't much that we know about the situation right now as we speak, but I would caution anyone to watching this to be prepared if you are in China to get ready, just in case something happens, so that you can leave. And for those of us who are living outside of the country, I suggest that we still be quite vigilant about the CCP not telling us what's going on. Now, I'm reading some of the viewers' comments last night, and which some of them included firsthand experience with this situation in Shanghai and Liaoning and otherwise. Now, I'm also reading comments online. This new pneumonia has varying symptoms across different age groups, gender, age, and all of these things, right? Including there's things like high fever, high temperature, coughs for some, while only headaches for others, and then there's some pains in places. So it's very different. But the most severe cases, and it's happening to children, is the case of white lungs. And that's been a big issue throughout the year, especially in 2023, for patients in China. Now, because this wave started, right, at least in the end of September or maybe early October, it's very likely that the Chinese CDC will have enough data on the outbreak. They know exactly what's going on, especially if it's a heavily affecting situation for kids, where they can't even go to school or entire schools are being suspended. But so far, what we've seen is exactly zero official announcement about the situation, right? Lack of transparency. Now, before we continue, let me do my sponsor segment. Now, I know that this topic is quite heavy, but these products that I'm talking about, they're really great products and they help to keep the channel going. So if you want to consider supporting me, check these out. The links will be in the description. I recently had the chance to try out the Detox Gel from Green Eastern. It's a product that focuses on deep detoxification and exfoliation, which can effectively remove puffiness, toxins, old skin cells, etc. that's being lingered on your body and your face. Now, it's also promoting skin metabolism at the same time. When I was using it for the first time, I basically warmed it up to the skin's temperature with my hands, and then I rubbed the gel in a circular motion around my cheeks. And then nasty goo started coming off of my skin and it started dropping everywhere. It's kind of gross, but there's going to be 4 types of substance you will see. There's watery stuff, foamy stuff, fatty substance, and thick substance, which signifies different skin conditions that you have. Now, for me, first it was very watery, and then it started getting the fatty stuff. So that indicates severe puffiness and water retention, and then fatty substance, which means that skin has toxic deposits in it. For all the Green Eastern products, you will enjoy the 15% off with my code DAVID. And finally, I want to remind everyone that ahead of the Black Friday sales, there's already a sale going on Blueberry, my sponsor, and you can get many products at 50% off right now. Some of the products like Derma Roller, new anti-wrinkle masks, as well as the Sohuasu skincare set are at 50% off, which is the best discount deal, right? You can get that set for $99. While other products like the Taiwan High Mountain Tea, they're all being discounted right now. So it's a great time to buy because this is the lowest price of the year. Now, the duration is limited. It only goes till the midnight of November 27th, so you have a few days. But if you miss it, you'll have to wait a full year for the next year. Remember, you also get free shipping if you spend $70 or more. Okay, so they blamed the situation on the so-called walking pneumonia, right? By the way, it's allegedly mycoplasma pneumonia. Now, it's a very odd thing because in China's list of viral and bacterial diseases, mycoplasmic pneumonia isn't even on the list because there's a lack of significance in the cases and severity. Mycoplasma pneumonia rarely causes severe pneumonia symptoms. And many children now, though, they're needing medical attention and treatment. Some of them became so seriously ill that they needed lung washing. It can't be explained that this is solely caused by mycoplasma pneumonia. Plus, normally the situation with mycoplasma pneumonia, it only affects the upper respiratory system. It doesn't go into the lower tracts, right? Including the bronchioles, the alveoli sacs, and that. So it means most diagnoses don't include a lung diagram. But the patients in Beijing and other cities, they're experiencing lower respiratory problems with deep into the lungs, like white lungs. And that alone suggests that mycoplasma is not going to be the culprit. So some experts suggest that it's a co-infection with another disease, right? Maybe COVID, maybe seasonal flu, something that's a type of jumbo mixture combined together to affect the kid. Now, if the WHO and ProMed are both asking for more information, this means that whatever they're providing us in terms of the information and details aren't enough to satisfy experts when it comes to viral diseases, right? The Chinese Communist Party isn't giving us enough details on the current situation. Now, it wasn't until November 13th that the officials in Beijing even held a press conference admitting that there may be cross-infections involved between several types of diseases. Now, the question is, could it be a new strain of COVID, an existing strain of COVID, something else, something that has to have broken down the immunity within the kids? Shi Zhengli, the Bat Lady, was also reportedly working on new coronavirus researches despite knowingly that it caused the pandemic in Wuhan in 2019. Why? Well, because the CCP wants to study gain-of-function research again. They've continued to do that, producing these double-edged swords in the name of so-called science, when in reality it's like producing bioweapon agents. The CCP knows that the novel coronaviruses are tied to their government-funded research, so the Chinese Communist Party wants to escape responsibility in times like this. It's crazy. We've seen this exact scenario again. I have no idea what to expect anymore. Other than read off what we already have in the script, I guess. I'm hearing information that antibiotic resistance in China and around Asia is also really high because of the rampant misuse of antibiotics. So this is a culmination of all the bad things that could have happened that are happening now. There's also the objective fact that Chinese vaccines, they may have contributed to this, given that they have a much lower efficacy compared to the mRNA vaccines for COVID. And otherwise, it's almost like a perfect combination of all the bad things that really could have happened to people in China. It's happening. There's also the situation after 3 years of sitting indoors, no exposure to sunlight, constant mental stress from the lockdowns, the sudden lifting of said lockdown orders. Your body's immune system cannot handle a constant exposure to infection, whether that's COVID or otherwise, and expect it to function well, develop a resistance over time. But what if you have no idea what you're up against? The doctors aren't telling you anything. The regime's not telling you anything. Your doctor's not even allowed to say, oh, it's because I know what's going on, but, I'm not allowed to say it. And then your vaccine also sucks. You're basically given the wrong treatments. And then your body is overwhelmed. And by that moment, any virus could basically overwhelm your body and do damage to you. That's the reality of China right now. It's like a melting pot of diseases. Now, if this is COVID, we have once again been left in the dark by the CCP. We don't know if they are dealing with a new mutation of some sort, right? I'm not an infectious disease expert, but just based off of logic, something fishy is going on here. Now, if you're watching this outside of China, you might be thinking, right, I don't feel like COVID's ever affected me that much. Maybe it's not even a problem to you anymore. But for some odd reason, COVID in China behaves like a different beast. It's been like this for a while too. Back in December of 2022, when the CCP decided to stop shut their COVID lockdowns and open up, right, it was like a floodgate of viruses being released to people. People that were getting infected were getting heavier and more severe symptoms than those that were getting the same outside of China. And then simply because, there's some aspects with the natural immunity to fend it off, they don't have that because they've been locked down for 3 years. But then, when we consider what was going on around the world, China was being defined as this really special case. And then over the time since then, I honestly think that the virus is targeting the CCP because, karma, right? They're the ones who, I don't know if they made the virus to be a bioweapon or it was just leaked in the process, but they were doing gain-of-function research in Wuhan. But that comes at the cost of people suffering. Look back at just this year alone, right? 2023, we've seen so many groups of people in China that have died from COVID and other complications, older people specifically. In December, the elderly population, we saw so many crematorium videos that the real number could mount to at least millions by some estimates from media, but the CCP has not answered us with anything since. They haven't told us that COVID was zeroed out or anything like that. And then we heard stories of thousands of CCP officials, professors, mouthpiece, and celebrities. They've all died out too. At one point, the regime, it was so bad that they stopped publishing obituaries for them because people kept searching for them. I've noticed a pattern here, right? In China, those that sympathize with the CCP, those that speak on behalf of the CCP, those that echo the CCP's view of China, they've aided in this whole situation. And unfortunately, they've been hit by COVID much heavier than the rest of the country. Now, I'm looking back at the last 4 years, and it's been an awakening for all of us to recognize the evil of the CCP, right? They're releasing this virus, and they haven't been held accountable. Especially, it's so hard for people because we've lost family time, we've lost money, we've lost the mental energy, we've lost something really important, which is trust. And people in China are starting to recognize it, but not everybody is doing it. So they have to have a chance to become aware of the situation, like what the government is doing. Now, you know, for 4 years, we've seen this crap, right? Hundreds of millions of people around the world, hundreds of millions of people in China may have died because the regime's censorship, lies, and deceptions. The lack of information initially in Wuhan, causing people to not know what was going on. Then for the rest of the world, and then 3 years of lockdown after that, we've been lied to consistently and constantly by the regime. Yet here we still have apologists for the CCP using excuses like, oh, they're not really communist, or they're doing the right things for China, or China under the CCP has really shown us that they're good. Whatever it is, the nature is communistic, and it does not care that if people die, or it does not care if people that suffer. Look at what we have today in the United States and around the world. We're still recovering from the global pandemic, and now there's another one that's going to brew up. I think the problem is this. Those that agree with the Communist Party, saying that the Communist Party is good, and those that follow the Communist Party all the way, they're basically helping the CCP to continue punish all of the world. And I'm honestly pretty tired of the fact that we may be getting the repeat from 4 years ago. Sure, I'll have plenty to talk about when it comes to content, but that's not the real issue, is it? I'm saddened for everyone around the world to go through this again. And now I'm seeing kids in China. We've lost so much, and where do we get it back? People have a chance to right the wrong here in China, I believe, if we can tell them, or if we can somehow change the minds of lawmakers, but we need to do something. And I think fundamentally, though, for people in China, they have a chance, which is to give up on their obsession with the Communist Party and to really wake up. They have to reject the CCP, right, in their own ways. And they have to. It's the only way. Otherwise, we're seeing another global pandemic rise up. And in times like that, we cannot expect China to be responsible. They won't share data. They won't let us in. They won't let the WHO investigate transparently. And to those children who are suffering, I really feel the pain here. Who's going to help them? The parents, the grandparents, all of them. So I'm kind of rambling on here because I'm lost of words to describe what we're witnessing right now. And I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the content today. Again, happy Thanksgiving to those of you watching in the US. And for the rest of you guys, I'll be back on Saturday with a long-form video. And make sure to check out the sale at Blueberry and click the link in the description and it'll take you there. So until next time, hope you enjoyed this content. If you do, leave a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. All right, I'm David Zhang. This is China Insider. We'll see you next time.